Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this LinkedIn Live. We're in the midst of severe weather season here in the United States. Few places in the US have not been impacted by some sort of severe weather within the past few weeks. I live in the Northeast where there have been floods and tornadoes, and Brian is down south where they've recently had floods, and he's no stranger to hurricanes, tornadoes, high winds, and more. And certainly the most recent and tragic floods have been in Texas and New Mexico. And our teams at Everbridge are working to support our customers in those areas. And Brian, as a former emergency manager, you've prepared and responded to a wide range of events. What do all these events have in common?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tom. So first, right, all events they're localized. They start in Texas. We saw them localized, in New Mexico localized. Even hurricanes impact local communities. These start local. They'll scale up. State gets involved. Federal government get involved. But then they go back to being managed at the local level. So what should we be looking for from a resident standpoint? Really, you should be prepared at all times. Understand the climate in your area. It's changing rapidly across the country. We're seeing that every day. Be prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice. Grab your important documents. As you mentioned, living in the South, right, and very accustomed now to hurricanes, unfortunately, every year and flooding. We keep our documents in secure file folders that we can grab if we have to leave the house, and make sure we have all those important information for when we have to come back. So one of the other biggest things people can do is not only pay attention to your local government and understand how they're going to communicate with you. Many will have mass notification systems that you have to sign up for. They might have other capabilities like reverse 911 data. And then they'll use the iPause network, which is a push notification to your phone and TV and radio. The biggest challenge that we're seeing is a lot of people aren't signing up or they're turning off those alerts. So we do want you to check your phones, make sure you have those turned on. You do have options. You can turn certain ones off and certain ones on. But this is how people are going to communicate with you when every second counts. So it's very important that you take your own personal safety as a high priority as well. The government and your local news and media will send alerts out. There's a number of ways you can get weather messaging, but pay attention to that, understand how it's going to impact you personally, and then understand what is your plan to leave that area should you have to.
Brian, let's talk more about some of those potential impacts of a severe weather event. What should businesses expect if there's a severe event like a flood or a tornado, and how do they plan for it?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing they should be doing is making sure their business continuity plans have weather as part of their requirements. Understanding where your employees are. We've shifted more to a remote work environment since COVID. So a lot of people are no longer in the office. They're out in their homes. They're out in the, traveling and meeting their customers on site and things like that. So the company needs to understand where they are and what impact to weather or other hazards they may be coming across. Even Everbridge, we do that ourselves, right? We have platforms to do this and we do it for our own employees so that we know where they are and what they may be facing and what they may be impacted by. And then we communicate with them to make sure, number one, they understand the level of impact, and number two, to make sure they're safe. And if they need assistance, we're there to provide assistance. So a good, strong business continuity plan will have some way to be able to monitor and alert employees should situations change and they may be impacted by some sort of severe event.
And when it comes to people safety, keeping employees safe, if you're a business leader or leading people on a college campus or healthcare facility, how do you ensure people are safe and accounted for when something does happen?
Yeah, great question, right? None of us like to be tracked. And completely understand, we're in a world where we're moving around quite often, but we're also in a mobile world. So being able to provide some level of mobile communications, whether it's a wearable device that can tell people when they're in trouble and they need help and pinpoint their location, or whether it's a mobile application on their phone, that allows them to communicate back and forth with their employer. It's important to have those types of resources available. It's also part of the employer's duty of care. You're responsible for your employee while they're working for you, and you're responsible for providing them with the tools to help keep them safe. Being in that government world for so long, it's important for us to be able to plan, prepare, respond, and recover, right? And part of that is making sure in the planning process, our employees have the tools they need to be able to alert us if there's a problem, right? And then how do we respond to that? How do we get them the assistance they need? Whether it's emergency resources or whether it's just somebody within the company that they're responsible for. So, deploying mobile asset or deploying mobile capabilities is fantastic. We have tons of those that people use every single day. But at the end of the day, it's all about making sure they're safe and knowing where they are when they need help. Again, not tracking people, but knowing where they are at the time they request help.
That's a good point. And, when I was getting started in the workforce a couple decades ago, we had those old-fashioned telephone call down trees. And now with alert systems, you can actually respond to those messages and say that you're okay. And that really helps employers know, who is safe and accounted for. So when people are receiving these weather alerts, they often see terms like watch, advisory, warning. Can you briefly explain the difference in these terms and also provide some advice on the types of information to include in alert messages?
Sure. Yeah. So, the National Weather Service sends out the majority of the weather types of messaging. That might get filtered down to the employee via text or via email. They also do the wireless emergency alerts for the most severe impacting weather to your life safety. There's, like you mentioned, there's three levels. The advisory, pretty much that lowest level that, hey, there's something coming. It might be within the next few days. Just trying to keep it at a low level here. And then it might elevate to watch, right? And watch is, okay, now we're starting to see something develop. There is a designated impact area. It's usually a larger area. So if you're thinking, municipality or city, then you think county, then you think state, right? The advisory might go to multiple different counties. The watch is probably going to be down at the county level. And then the warning, that's more direct. We know the actual impact area. That's going to be somewhere down at that city level, right? Even maybe within a city level or a town level. Might be a few neighborhoods. In instance for tornadoes, it could be just a couple of neighborhoods or an area within a jurisdiction. And they move quickly, right? Weather moves quickly, so expect that even if it's not impacting you right now, it could be impacting you, within a few minutes or a few hours. So pay attention, right? That's the first part of it. Pay attention, understand what that watch area looks like or what that warning area looks like. Are you impacted by that? Are you going to be in there at some point? Could it potentially be heading in your direction, so that you understand how much time you might have? Water is unforgiving, right? It's one of those worst case scenarios. Water doesn't care where you are. If it comes in, it's going to move the objects in its way. We see that all the time in the media pictures, houses floating downstream, all that. So don't stay in water, right? Same with driving through water. Don't drive through standing water. You don't know how deep it is. There could be a pothole or there could be a washed out road down the, and, as you're driving through. Stay out of that, right? Water, again, is not forgiving. Um, it is also important that from the government level, we're communicating with residents and our communities in the languages they understand, right? In plain language. I always laugh. I tell people, back when I was in the government days and we were putting together terminology to send out, I would actually send it to my kids first, right? And be like, hey, do you understand this? They're 6 and 9 years old or even lower at that time. And if they came back, yeah, Dad, I got it, right? Fantastic. Then if you get it, right, we can send this out to everybody and they should be able to understand it. We love to talk in different types of lingo at the government side, and oftentimes fail to remember that our constituents don't understand that. So keep it simple, keep it actionable. What are you trying to get them to do? And then put a time parameter around it. But most important, let them know who it's coming from. See tons of messages out there where you have no idea who sent this, And people in today's world, they're signing up in different locations. They work in one area, they live in another area, they have parents in yet another area. So they're signing up for multiple different locations. Let them understand who is sending it, what you're actually trying to get them to understand, and then what action is there. Do they have to leave now, or can they wait, a couple hours? So it's very important to understand how the message is going to impact the recipient.
Yeah, great point. And having descriptive protective measures, the action that you talk about, tell people how to shelter in place or how to evacuate, whatever those measures are, give them a bit more detail as well. So great tips. So where can people learn more information like this?
Yeah, so government's got the best sources. Ready.gov is one of the biggest sources out there for information, but don't rely on it for everything. Check your local emergency management web pages, public safety web pages, right? They're going to have more information that's localized. What are your potential evacuation zones? Where are some of the shelters? Should you have to move to a shelter for a little while? How are they going to alert you to impacting weather or other emergencies, right? I mean, your local government agencies are also going to send you things like traffic advisories or other potential threats. Is there a water main break or a gas leak or something else that might be impacting you from a community level? So look for that. You can obviously go to your local government websites. You can go to emergency management, public safety, police, or just Google your area, where you live, and emergency alerts, and it will usually take you right to those pages. You can also text your zip code to 888-777. If our jurisdictions or our customers are using that, they will keep you alerted. Now, just to caveat that, it doesn't mean that everybody across the country is using that service. That is a service that Everbridge provides to our customer base so that they can alert their residents in their communities. So just because you text your information to 888-7 or your zip code 888-777 doesn't necessarily mean alerts will come to you. So seek out your local government agencies, understand how they're going to alert you. Is it as simple as texting into a keyword or texting to your zip code in, or do you have to go in and provide a little more information to be able to get those alerts? Um, but everybody's responsible for their own personal safety. So please make sure you understand the hazards you live in, the hazards you may be traveling to, and how you would get to a safe location should something impact your immediate safety.
That's a great point. And, you may also be in a situation where you're responsible for other people's safety, family members, employees that work with you. So encourage others to do the same, to sign up for local alerts, to stay tuned when events are occurring. So thank you all for tuning in for this short presentation. If you have any questions, reach out to us. You can email us at resilience@everbridge.com. Thank you all. Thanks,
Thank
Brian.
you. Thanks.